there's actually a lot of local buyers in the Grove, and there always has been, and I have no doubt there always will be.
It's still getting the premium out of all the other primary markets compared to the Pinecrest, the Gables, the South Miamis of the world.
For sure. It's a 4-point problem to the $3 to $6 million market. And that in its location, in that small 1 acre or less lot, is now creating some obstructions to a number of lines at both Park Grove and Grove at Grand Bay. This is my dive with David Vazquez, our territory manager for Coconut Grove. A deep dive look into the current state of the Coconut Grove condo and home market with all the stats, all the data, and all the key human observations that we have with our clients over the last seven months.
Yep, 6, 7
in the market. So let's start with the houses, David.
Yes.
So first thing to say is what we've been seeing statistically speaking, and then we'll kind of unwrap that. So months of inventory, what are we looking just generally across the board in the Grove, just as a good starting point?
So basically we broke down this whole study in different price points between 1 million to 3 million, 3 million to 6 million, and 6 million to 10 million, because it's obviously we can't bunch them all together. The 1 to 3 million is basically entry level. The 10 million is almost top of the single family home Grove market. So we can't just bunch them all together.
Yeah.
So in the 1 to 3 million, which is the entry level for a single family home, inventory is crazy low, 4 months. Seller's market, that's either a small home, small lot, or basically land value. So again, 4.2 months of inventory. The volume is about the same. It's actually up a little bit this year compared to the same time period in 2024, 6 more sales in that price point. But then if we look into like the bulk,
the meat and potatoes of a market is 3 to 6.
3 to 6. That's the bulk of Coconut Grove homes, right? So that one, in terms of sales, only 5 sales less, so not a huge difference.
Not enough to make a difference.
Right, not a huge number, but the months of inventory has gone up, almost doubled, from 8 months to like 17 months. A lot of that has to do with poor product.
Yeah, there's a 4-point problem, as I've called it, as a 4-point problem to the $3 to $6 million market. And it's a reason why we have an accumulation of grown inventory in the last 6 months across this period to what you'd consider a double amount. The first problem is this. Properties, there's a good number of these types of homes on busy or bad streets. Okay, what do I mean busy? A main arterial route where there's a lot of traffic. Again, most of our buyers are families, and we'll get into the demographic profile, the clients that we've been working with. A busy street or a bad street. Bad street could be also a street which is considered a part of town where you might be backing up to a lower income neighborhood or a street that's less desirable, or maybe, we're talking about typically that west side of the Grove, down Grand Avenue. There's a few little quadrants where it just doesn't feel as polished. And this the funny thing about the Grove. The Grove is a real mixed bag. You can have a really nice house next to a kind of a home that looks like it needs to be torn down. There's little in the way of the same uniformity and let's say high level prestige that you might see in the Gables or let's say Ponce Davis. But that's part of the charm and the personality of the neighborhood. The second problem is badly finished houses. And this could be an older home that's been remodeled. It could even be a badly finished new home. And, we're not calling out builders, but some of the spec home builds have not been great. They've been very boxy. They've been very basic. The third problem is small lots. Again, there's a lot of small lots in the Grove, as we know, David. There's 6,000 square foot lots. There's even
5,000.
Some 5,500 square foot lots and a good number of 7,000 square foot lots. Now that, by the primary neighborhoods of let's say South Miami, Coral Gables, Pinecrest, it's very, very small. And that for families, if it's too small, when you've got the desire to have a pool and a yard and a barbecue area, you don't have a lot of room. Then finally, this kind of accumulative problem that we see is overpriced product.
The main problem.
The main problem. And, the reason I think we've seen an accumulation of these listings is because these prices haven't come in line with really where they need to be. And then more property is just accruing as we've gone on. It's worth touching before we get into the demographic profiles of who we've been dealing with and working with, that higher end of that market.
Yeah. So on a price per square foot basis, across the board, it's either equal or slightly even up a little bit.
Okay.
In the 1.1 to 3 million, 3 to 6, 6 to 10. So even though the months of inventory in that 3 to 6 million has gone up, the sales are still pretty consistent, and the price per square foot has been pretty consistent. So on the higher end,
Yes,
we're talking 1,500 a foot, 1,600. That one that sold for 1,880 a foot, I want to say.
yeah, these are the higher level sales. Once we get
Custom
into
finish.
some of these custom level finishes, there was a sale on Crystal Court that sold for 8.85. I want to say that was around 1,550 a square foot. There was a house on Crawford that actually sat on a slightly smaller lot, incredibly well finished home. That sold up in that around that 1,500 a square foot range. When the houses are really well done, well finished, they do sell. And as you even move on to on that higher end, we saw a sale on Little Avenue in New Little Woods. We had a big sale up at 16.5. There was this at 16.9, but that was really a land trade, and that was on the water. We don't have, and we haven't had any of those, some of those bigger sales that we saw in the tail end and the mid end of last year, where we saw some sales that were down on the water in Coconut Grove, in the moorings and other areas, where we see some of these like big sales that we've had the pleasure of enjoying in previous years. There's been less of that. Really only one sale over $10 million. And then a few in that kind of like 6 to 10, but not very many. I mean, very few for you to really pull data off and understand.
But the Grove's still 1,500 a foot, 1,600 a foot. It's still getting the premium out of all the other primary markets compared to the Pinecrest, the Gables, the South Miamis of the world.
For sure.
I think for a single family home, it still demands the highest.
Yes. And that tells us one thing, people. If you're out there as a buyer, it means that the dollar per square foot is not softening. There's not a drop off of the market. So that's very, very, very key to understand. At the same time, and I've said this and now we reflect into who we've been dealing with, I don't see buyers wanting to break records either. They're hesitant. Interest rates are high. The economy has, we had a big, you call it a hiccup in April. We had a real turmoil with tariffs and other things coming out, and then other wars, behaviors, wars, a lot of stuff that was really kind of making people a little bit more alert. But the buying more careful. The interesting thing is actually getting into the profile of the buyers, because again, if you list your home, and we know when we sold a WeWere, which is in the North Grove, and when we've been dealing with other listings that we've sold, either representing buyers or sellers through the Grove over the last 6 months, what I've found really fascinating is where the buyers have been coming from and how they've been behaving.
Yeah.
So you made a mention earlier on about buyers just kind of circling. They'll pop up, they'll look, they'll disappear, they'll come back again.
And when going back to the 4-point theory that you mentioned, when a house does check off a good street, good lot, well finishes, it flies off the market.
Yeah.
Priced correctly, if it's forget about 19 months, it'll sell in a week.
For sure.
If it even hits the market.
For sure. The buying pool, again, there's actually a lot of local buyers in the Grove, and there always has been, and I have no doubt there always will be. They come from graduating. They graduate from Brickell and downtown. They graduate from the roads in Shenandoah. They graduate from a rental that they were in for the last year because, let's say, they had already relocated from another state. There's that buying pool. Local, somewhat local, who are now looking for their home. And then we still have the relocation buyer.
Yeah.
We had the California fires. California buyers.
A bunch of California buyers here earlier in the year.
Yes.
I would say Q1.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a lot of clients from Chicago, the Northeast, and some went forward and bought, and some are still in that C category, waiting, looking, market might be taking a turn, but it's not. We know that. But there's some reasons for them to be hesitant, which we kind of discussed, right? And careful.
They're careful.
So they're still there watching from a distance. And just when I think, it's funny, okay, this person's off the radar, they've gone quiet, they'll send me a text. Hey, what do you think of this house? Just hit the market.
Yeah, that happens a lot every day.
I'm like, oh, wow. So they're still looking, you know? And like, just when I was about to like, okay, let me lower them to not hot buyers, right? They're still around, lurking around. So, I think another thing that, especially in this single family home neighborhood, right? It's families that we're selling to with kids. The schools, some of their some of the buyers are waiting for their kids to get accepted into these private schools we have here in Coconut Grove before they make the move. And it's kind of like bottlenecking the move because getting into these schools is so hard.
Yes.
So that's been something that we've been kind of having a challenge for us as well.
It's one of the aspects that when we get into listing properties, people say, all right, so you understand the numbers and you understand the demographics and what people are doing and why they're doing it. Now, the question is, how do I sell my home? What should I be doing if I'm listing my home right now, or I've listed it and I haven't been successful, or I'm thinking of listing it as we get into the autumn and we get through July and we get into August and kids are back to school? So here's what we will tell you and what we deal with all the time. First point, number one, we have to solve some of the existing problems that may be on the table for those clients. So what we'll do is we do make introductions to schools. I have made a lot of intros and I have tried to find alternatives for families with kids, whether they were going to have tutors, whether they're going to go into a public school for a little bit before they get to the private school, or we've done our podcast with our head of admissions and heads of schools. We'll make the personal introduction. But I think the second point of how we market is making sure that we resonate, and what we do and what we show and how we sell really resonates with that audience, and we understand their needs and wants. So we're talking to them as a family and we're showing them the right product in the right area. And the price is that overruling element. We are extremely direct when it comes to price. We don't want to massage your ego and make you feel warm and fuzzy. If we don't get to sell the home, if we can't achieve what we've been hired to do, you won't be happy and we won't be happy. No one wins. So candor, honesty is really fundamental in this process.
And there's ways to prepare your home properly to list.
Yes.
Because the way we live in a home is not the way we want to sell and show our home. So the staging, the painting, the landscaping, kind of like all these little things that it's a little bit of investment, a little bit of work up front. It pays off usually 5-10 times.
There's some incredible improvements you can do. And then again, even homes that it may not be what it is, it's what it could be. We have created renderings of homes, of the way the home is going to look or could look if you want to bring in interior design or do some home improvements. So we're constantly trying to show the potential of a house above and beyond what it might immediately appear to be. I think that's a good understanding of the home market. Segueing into the condo market, and the condo market for us is a really comfortable space for us to be, because we live the condo market every day as the directors of the Well. We are constantly dealing with the narrative, the psychology of the condo buyer.
Yep.
And this project, obviously, we can say it's 40% sold in 7 months. We've been incredibly successful at selling this to actually many, many of the local buyers. The condo market's been an interesting one. Give us some of the stats of the condo market, then we'll dive into some of the bigger sales that we've handled and seen, and then the profile once again of the buyers and the sellers and what the psychology of the market is.
I think before the stats, the overview of the Grove condo market, first of all, it's a very healthy market overall.
Yes.
And we'll get into why now. But a big reason that, I've heard you say it 100 times, the Grove, it's 90% homes and 10% condos. So the amount of options out there, it's like the same 4 buildings, Mr. C, Grover Grand Bay, Park Grove, Grosvenor. And then after that, it's like, what else is out there? Obviously, we have some pre-construction projects like the Well. That's going to be really helping. But that's part of our success at the Well, is that there's such a lack of inventory, which if I'm a buyer, I like that, because lack of inventory typically means demand stays strong.
Classic supply demand economics at play.
Right. So pretty much we have to be the best. The condo market in the Grove has to be the best condo market in all of South Florida. Brickell, downtown, Edgewater, Sunny Isles, Bar Harbor, all of them. I mean, so let's break it down again from 1 to 3 million, 3 to 6 million, 6 to 10 million, 10 million plus again, right? So sales volume in the 1 to 3 million, down about 33%. Okay, it's down, but why? Prices have been continue to go up.
And optionality shrinks.
Exactly. Price per square foot, up 15% over the last year. Months of inventory, 8 months last year, 10 months this year. Still a pretty balanced market in the 1 to 3 million range.
With such a small amount of product, a move from 8 to 10 months might be reflective of maybe a few other, a few properties.
Right.
So it can really swing quickly.
So 3 to 6 million, which, if we really think about it, there's not that many options in 3 to 6, because once you go to Park Grove, it's 6 million.
I've had
plus.
very big problems selling or finding product in condos in general in Coconut Grove into that 3 to 6 range. We've had a lot of the buyers coming through, and the ones, once again, the product that we have been finding has either been subpar, overpriced, not well finished.
It's really like Grosvenor is like the main option right now.
Yeah.
And that's actually, funny enough, that's our sweet spot at the well, the 3 to 6 million. That's kind of like where we're doing a lot of our sales. But there's not really great options. So both 2024 and 2025, the first 6 months, it's only single digits, 6 sales, 3 sales, not much, because there's not much options of those units, right? But again, price per square foot is up 13%. So few sales, but price per square foot is still rising.
Yeah, there's an interesting story actually, and then one of the sales that we had was through one of our team at Park Grove, and we had a unit 8A, and it originally came on the market, I want to say last year, and we weren't successful with the activity on that unit. We were actually talking that it might be in the maybe $6 million, low sixes. It was brought back into the market in the spring, and it was a much healthier reaction. We saw a healthy reaction, maybe something to do with some of the movement we saw from California.
Mm-hmm.
But that ended up selling, I want to say, a little bit under $7 million. We had another sale that we handled, which was a D-line, that came out at $6 million. But it was very difficult finding the product for that client.
In that kind of 3 to 6 range.
Yeah, it was a challenge. It was a challenge because I think, again, optionality is very, very limited.
Yeah.
Home sales of the market's only condos. The rest is home.
If you go to the next level, 6 to 10 is where you get some of like the 3,000 square foot, 2,600 square foot in Park Grove, in Grove of Grand Bay. So you actually have a little bit fewer options, nicer options in that price point. Obviously, it's a bigger jump. But in those buildings, both combined, we're talking 2,000 square foot plus.
And the prices, even there was an interesting sale. The big sale that we saw this year was Unit 15A in Park Grove, that ended up trading out over $3,400 a square foot. It was actually last year that it was first traded. It was quietly traded off market, and it ended up selling at that moment for 10.7, and then it was just retraded. It closed, I think, maybe a month ago for 12.5. So you're talking nearly $2 million on that retrade in less than a year.
Yeah.
In a market that we're dealing with right now in Miami, that's unheard of. That would never, ever happen anywhere else. But it's kind of reflective that once you get into buildings, you're dealing with only 1 or 2 lines as options.
Yep.
Which is kind of an interesting one now, because now we have the Four Seasons, talking about the product, coming up right on the water, and that in its location, in that small 1 acre or less lot, is now creating some obstructions to a number of lines at both Park Grove and Grove at Grand Bay. Ultimately, it's left us with just 2 lines that have real unobstructed view.
Right.
The A line in Park Grove Tower 1, where we saw that record sale, and in Grove at Grand Bay, the South Tower 01 line, which is on the north side of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just listed 1601 for sale for $13 million. That's the only 2 lines where you'll have unobstructed, protected in perpetuity views out over the bay.
Yep.
Which aren't affected by the Four Seasons.
Yep. Going to that $12.5 million sale that you mentioned, so talking about the 10 million plus, obviously only a handful of units. 3 sales 2024, 3 sales 2025. But again, the price per square foot keeps on going up from 2,800 square feet to almost 3,000 square feet. So a 6% increase. And months of inventory for across the board from 1 million to 10 million, it's all 10 months, 12 months, 15 months. So even in a challenging condo market, you read the news, South Florida, condo markets, imploding, disaster. In the Grove, it's not the case.
Yeah. This is why we've always said Miami is an aggregation of 19 villages. It is not one homogeneous blob, and neighborhoods don't behave the same. And it's very, very, very important to understand the dynamics of all these neighborhoods. Now, David, you are our expert in Coconut Grove, but we also have experts in Palm Beach, in Fort Lauderdale, in Boca, in Sunny Isles, Miami Beach, obviously all the way down. And each territory manager is analyzing in the way that you're doing right now to give a very detailed view, statistically of what's going on and a reflection because you live this with the clients every day. Mm-hmm. So let's finish off once again by talking about who are the buyers, where are they coming from, what's driving them, or what's stopping them in the process.
So again, mostly locals relocating. A big chunk of these bigger units that are being sold, so the 3 to 6, 6 to 10, 10 million plus, are empty nesters are in a 10,000 square foot home, maybe in South Gables.
Yes.
Maybe they're in Pinecrest in 2 acres that they don't need all this space anymore, but they want to be where they go to dinner. They want to be walkable to get coffee shops. They want to be walk to their gym. So where do they go? They all go to Grove of Grand Bay, Park Grove, these 2 towers, nothing else.
Yeah.
So there's a big competition for these premier lines. So empty nesters is a huge pool. We're also seeing families relocating, just like for the single family homes, from all these other cities, New York, Chicago, LA. Some people, especially like Northeast people, they've grown up their whole lives in apartments. They want apartment living. They don't want the house. They don't want the yard. They don't want the pool maintenance and the roof maintenance. They want, turn the key, I'm gone if I want to, and have all the service at my fingertips.
Absolutely. And they actually want, and this is the key thing, yes, they want condo living, but they want condo living with walkability.
Walkability, yes.
Which I think if there's one big takeaway when you look into Miami and you reflect on the buyers coming in, New Yorkers are unsurprisingly familiar and desiring walkability because that's what New York living is like. They are having a very, very difficult time coming into Miami and finding a neighborhood where they can actually walk out of their building and within a few feet have somewhere to grab coffee, grab lunch, go to socialize in any of the kind of the key elements that you would in a normal kind of urban setting. They really struggle. Plus, the parks and everything else, the greenery that goes with
organic
Grove. Extremely. I mean, it is the most organic, and we've said this for decades, the most organic neighborhood, and it's constantly evolving. I think the beauty of Coconut Grove is that there's always something happening. There's always something new. They're just developing now. The Playhouse is coming down. The theater is coming down. There's been new restaurants that have opened in the last year. Yeah. We saw Carbone Vino, which is a great restaurant. We saw, dare I say, it is a staple, classic, Pura Vida, just opened in Coconut Grove. Right. And whenever you see Pura Vida get planted in a neighborhood, you know what follows.
Their biggest location.
It is. That's actually a very good point. It is their flagship location, which should tell you a lot about, the psychology of Coconut Grove, which is health and wellness. It's a big part of it. Being outside, being healthy, being walkable. It's what everything's about. It's actually why we've been so successful with a well.
I think the schools plays a big factor too, because we have all the best private schools basically in the backyard of Coconut Grove.
Yeah.
There are people we see relocating from Key Biscayne because they don't want to make the drive across the bridge to send their kids to school, or maybe they want to relocate from, call it Miami Shores, wherever the case is. They want to be closer to the school.
Yeah.
And the last point is maybe, and this is more for like maybe the entry level, 1 to 2, 3 million, is like these people, the young professionals that are now graduating from the Brickell, from the Edgewater. I mean, I'm like that example.
That's you. That's actually
I was
you
in
to a T.
Edgewater downtown 8, 9, 10 years. Moving on into my mid 30s almost, and with family on the way.
You've got a family on the way. You've got married.
Right. So it's all like coming to that point of life, and I say, okay, I don't want to do this in Edgewater or in downtown. It was a great run. What's the perfect place? Coconut Grove. If you can make it happen, right? Because obviously economic factors are different for everybody, but it's the dream for everyone.
It is. It's the Miami dream for the young family, is give them the option of where they want to plant their flag. It's Coconut Grove. And I'm going to finish with my point, which is actually on the other cycle of life, the other side of a cycle, where we're actually seeing those people on, you want to call it the back nine, where they're not having their kids, they're now in college and they're the empty nesters. What we've seen, and this is just an observation, which I find somewhat fascinating, within the buildings, within Park Grove, Grove at Grand Bay, what I've noticed and seen, is some of these big sales have happened because the condo seller has just wanted to have an even bigger unit. So we've seen these moves internally within the buildings, within Park Grove, going from a good unit to the best unit. And we've seen a number of sales in Park Grove and around coming from local in building buyers who just want a bigger unit, more space. That's what it's about. Once you're in the Grove, you very rarely leave.
Yep.
Yeah. So hopefully that gives you a really good understanding of the Grove market. We've covered the homes, we've covered the condos. If there's any information that we haven't covered that you'd like to know about, please DM us. This whole channel, our entire existence, is based off Better Statisticians and try to feed you with the information that you actually truly need. So whether you're an out-of-towner, whether you're a local, and there's some data that you need or want, let us do some bespoke analytics for you. DM us below, send us a message. We'll maybe add it to our next video. And thank you for watching. Please enjoy the rest of our videos. We have over 1,000 videos on YouTube. Our channel grows. We have many thousand subscribers. But if you watch this channel and you enjoy it, please subscribe. It means a lot to us. Thank you for watching. See you soon for another video from the David Siddons Group.